Pennsylvania in 2020. Take Delaware County in particular, a county Joe Biden allegedly won at 62.9% by a margin of almost 88,000 ballots. Well, apparently that county doesn't want us to know, for according to blockbuster videos released by a whistleblower, guess what election officials have been busy doing this year? Just destroying records. Records which, by the way, according to Pennsylvania law, must be kept intact for 11 months after Election Day, and according to federal law, for 22 months. But that doesn't seem to matter to election officials Tom Gallagher and James Ziegelhofer, who to destroy records after a right-to-know request was filed on May 21st of this year. Now watch this and ask yourself, why would they be doing this?
Here's Tom Gallagher again, lawyer for Delaware County, destroying voting machine tapes to bypass the right-to-know request.
And let them try to figure out what we did.
Why do you have to rip it up? Makes you feel better?
There's just so many, I don't want to try to pick it up and take it through stuff away.
Oh.
We're gonna have a little campfire going.
And that was 4 times.
So what happens when the whistleblower challenges them?
What we have here is evidence. What we have there is evidence. Right? Let them figure that out.
Yes, but what I don't understand, and this makes me nervous, is why tapes were being thrown away. So what is...
No tapes were...
No, you guys have been throwing away tapes, so what tapes are you throwing away? Like, why?
They don't have unidentifiable. There's no way they could,
Well, it's been that way since the November election, so why would you throw anything away since you have to save it for 22 months?
well, let's put it this way. Yes, there are tapes that are being taught, but they are of no audit value. No audit value.
But is that all? No. Here's Voting Machine Warehouse Supervisor Jim Savage and Director of Election Operations James Allen talking about exactly what's going on, until for some reason they stopped talking.
This is Jim Savage and James Allen discussing getting rid of the pads and second scanners.
Pads and the second scanner. We got to talk about it. Wow.
So you mean they knew exactly what they were doing? That's mighty interesting. And do you want to know what else is interesting? Well, guess what's missing from Delaware County's election records? V-drives from the communities of Chester, Haverford, and Fulcroft.
Here is Tom Gallagher discussing the V-drive handling with the whistleblower.
I left the scathing voicemail, probably totally inappropriate, no cursing, on Friday for Lorraine, because she just handed me this box and said, it's missing Chester 1, it's missing Haverford, Fulcroft, with no piece of paper.
Why is it missing those V
I
drives?
have no idea, but there's 1,000 V drives in there, and I'm like, and they all came out of the plastic cases. They were all over the place, and she took V drives, just shoved them in the plastic bags, and she went like this. So I said, you get down here and you straighten this out. Well, Jim Allen got a hold of it, and he's just making check marks.
Joining us now with more on this, spokesperson for Save America and President Trump, Liz Harrington. Liz, nothing to see here. This is just all perfectly normal, right? This just happens after every election, just destroy evidence, break laws. Nothing to see here.
This happens in every third world election as well, and that's what we had in the United States of America last November. I mean, this is damning stuff. And remember when Bill McSwain, the U.S. attorney, came forward and said, hey, I had allegations of fraud. There were things to look into, but Bill Barr, then Attorney General, told me not to make any statements about it, not to look into it. And this is the kind of stuff that should have been looked into, and now it's taken a private lawsuit to get this out to the public. These are felonies, as they admit on camera. This is destroying evidence. And the key thing as well, Natalie, why they're doing this is because the numbers wouldn't match up. When he says there's no audit value, the source in the lawsuit says that's because when they would do an audit, if they had this material that they were destroying, the numbers wouldn't add up. And that is the truth. The numbers are never going to add up for Joe Biden, who was losing Pennsylvania by 15 points at midnight on election night. It's this kind of law breaking. It's the only reason why they claim otherwise.
Well, it was Pennsylvania and Michigan in particular where we saw them actually blocking out windows, or they wouldn't even let any observers in. There is a reason for that. You don't just block people and not allow any Republican or non-partial observers. They only had their partial observers there, right? It was the Democrats that were back there seeing what was going on. We weren't ever allowed to see it. Again, it takes a private entity to come in and do this lawsuit. Who knows how the lawsuit will end up? Hopefully it'll be good. But we know there were plenty of lawsuits, and they were all thrown out because of standing. Apparently, no one in this country allow any Republican or non-partial observers. They only had their partial observers there, right? It was the Democrats that were back there seeing what was going on. We weren't ever allowed to see it. Again, it takes a private entity to come in and do this lawsuit. Who knows how the lawsuit will end up? Hopefully it'll be good. But we know there were plenty of lawsuits, and they were all thrown out because of standing. Apparently, no one in this country, not even the President of the United States, has standing in our elections.
It's unbelievable. And you're absolutely right, Natalie. They broke the law on camera. I mean, this is new video that we've seen, more law breaking, but the blocking of the poll watchers, we had a court order. The Trump campaign had a court order to let them in to see these mail-in ballots, the counting days and days after the election, and they were blocked from the polling rooms. This is a third world country election, and that's why we have third world style results right now. It's unbelievable. We have to have prosecutions here. We have to pursue the evidence. You know, they've now had a year to try to get their numbers to add up. And the truth is, the numbers are never going to add up for Joe Biden. It's never going to pan out. And the American people see that. They know that. And they're also finding evidence in Georgia as well that they've deleted all of the tabulation, the records, the ballot images from half the counties there. They've had so much time to try to cover their tracks, but the truth will never be silenced here. It's going to come out eventually.
Well, and finally, the Pennsylvania Senate, they're actually moving forward, hiring an audit firm. They're actually going to conduct an audit. We've been waiting so long for that to happen. We know what went on in Pennsylvania. Of course, it always ends up being more than we could have imagined, just like in Arizona or even in Georgia, what Garland Favorito's group's been able to expose, even without ever actually seeing the actual records for ourselves. Do you feel like now we're going to actually get those answers about what happened all those feet away where no one was allowed to see in Pennsylvania?
Well, I certainly hope so, but I am worried because you already have Jake Corman prejudging the results there. He said, oh, this isn't about changing the results. Well, you don't know what you're going to find, right? You should just be open-minded, look what's going, look at the evidence, look at the ballots, look at the machines, look at everything there is to see, the laws that were violated. I mean, we know to this day they have more votes than voters in Pennsylvania. So how can you certify a result when it's thousands more votes, tens of thousands more votes than voters? You can't do that. And they've had a year to try to make these numbers match. I do worry that, you're trying to prejudge an investigation. No, just pursue the truth, pursue the real results, and let the chips fall where they may.
We even saw some of the people in the Arizona Senate saying that too. This isn't about the last election. This is about the future. If it's not about the last election, what's the point of an audit? You're only auditing the past. There's nothing about the present or the future that's about an audit.
Exactly. And it's about both, quite frankly, because you don't have a future, you don't have a fair election if the last one wasn't. And we know it wasn't. And look, we know what we believe. We know we have the facts and truth on our side, but I think it's irresponsible if you're an elected official to go into something saying that this is only going to have one outcome. No, we need the truth here. And I think the American people know what the truth is, but let's have an impartial investigation. It's long past time to do so. The taxpayers, I think, are more than willing to put money behind it to get the real true results. And that's what we need to happen in Pennsylvania and all these other states.
There have to be consequences, because you can write as many laws as you want. They didn't follow the law. Right there, they're even breaking election law where you're supposed to keep the records on file. So all this talk about laws, yes, it's important, but what we're seeing in Texas, what we're seeing in Florida, they're actually prosecuting any election crimes, and hopefully Arizona will do the same thing. And then the laws on the books actually count. Right now, they don't count, because we haven't seen anyone really have to pay for what happened in the last election. And Liz, I know we get to keep you over for the next segment, President Trump's new book that came out. Again, when you see what was stolen from us, those 4 wonderful years that we had together, there's still the best is yet to come, as the president says. So stay right there, and we'll be right back after the break.